Hello everyone, Yukihuman here. It's been a while since the launch of Early Access. I finally got some time to write down my thoughts and build progression. In this video, I'll include 3 main parts: thoughts on the game, tips or tricks that I'm using, and the build itself. Spoiler alert, I'm playing Grenade Base Witchhunter, but I think Gemling should perform better for general gameplay. For the thoughts on the game, I'm writing this down based on my friends and my gameplay experience. Please let me know if there are some mistakes in the video, and feel free to use the timestamp to look for what you want. The most important thing I need to mention is the basic logic of this new game. Previously, many people still considered Path of Exile 2 would be quite similar to Path of Exile 1. I can't say this is wrong, because the idea of the endgame mapping content is still the same, only in a last epoch way. Of course, you will need more precise movement and a slower pace while mapping. But for the campaign, things are actually pretty similar to From Software's game. Grinding Gear Games is trying to make the whole campaign experience more interactive, but not necessarily more difficult. For sure, some stupid bosses have stupid hitboxes. Hope GGG can fix those bosses. But you can still do quite a lot of stuff in POE2 that you have been doing while encountering the boss fight in From Software's game. Things like baiting attack movement, dodging most of the attacks, using dodge to cancel movement are viable in POE2. And they will try to add stuff before some encounter to empower your character, like providing a higher tier active still gems and providing rare items in shops. Thus you can have a relatively better character power after picking up those stuffs, or just don't get hit. I'm playing crossbow, which sounds range attack, but most of my boss fight time are basically point blank. Because in range, the movement angle is smaller, so you need to move longer to dodge, thus you lose DPS time. But in close range, you can even attack and dodge cancel to maximize your damage. If you find difficulties in boss fights, you can always upgrade your gear by buying gears or crafting, and even gear swapping. In the current mod pool, most of the mods are useful for your path to the boss room or boss fight. One flat damage mod is already good enough to carry you a long way. Although they ban swapping gear during actual boss fights, you can still swap before the fight. Preparing different resistance gear is useful for various boss fights and for those trash mobs too. That's why I didn't describe it as difficult but interactive, because as long as you swap some of the gear, those mobs and bosses should not be too much trouble. Another reason I think GGG is making the map larger is to let players have more time to learn. In mapping, you will basically encounter every monster you see in the campaign again, but in different combinations. Because you only have one chance in mapping unless you're fast enough to log out, it is more crucial to know what the mob does and how to react. Some mobs will explode after a few seconds, some mobs will instantly kill you by drowning, some mobs will do a big slam. All these things are hard to learn in mapping cause the cost is too high with the XP lost and the wasting. So putting the learning procedure in the campaign is actually helping the players to understand the game better. If you find it too difficult, then you should not play Path of Exile 2. Cause I think Grinding Gear Games will not change this basic logic of the game. Of course, there are some extremely toxic map layouts and waypoint design, but I believe that will be fixed soon. Yeah, Act 2 boss map, I'm talking about you. Also, with the slower game pace, it is more important to understand how to counter those mobs, cause we have more time to react. So this is a pretty good game design and direction in my opinion. To me, I'll divide the game into 2 different concepts and playstyles. The campaign part is more of a single-player game, like enjoying the game design and movement. The mapping part is classic Path of Exile, learning how to gear up and progress to the end game. Of course, I have some complaints too, but it's early access, so I'll just wait for them to fix stuff. If they didn't fix that, then it is intended and we'll need to learn how to play around with it. Things like chaos damage and resistances, interaction cancel, drop rate, dozen types of physical degen but no counterplay. There are things that I think should be fixed. We'll see if the developer considers those as an issue, or accepts the fact that they are features. Just like Bungie lol. That's my thoughts these days. The game is in the good direction but still has tons of things to fix. During these days, I have found some tricks that are useful for me. Some are related to specific skills, so it might be better if you're playing bottom side tree. The first thing is dodge roll. At the moment I'm making this video, GGG has already improved the dodge roll hitbox to a smaller size. But even before that, as long as there's some tiny space between monsters, you can dodge roll to go past the gap. The character walking hitbox is larger than the dodge roll hitbox, so it is possible that it looks impossible to go through, but you can still dodge to escape. Second, you can change your direction during the dodge roll. I'm using WASD movement, so I'm not sure how mouse and keyboard work, but the concept is that during dodge roll, you can input other directions to perform something like a half circle movement or forward and backwards. This is pretty useful in Trials of Sekhmet, as you might only utilize the iframe to dodge, but the dodge itself is too long that almost makes you hit another trap. Note that you need to press another direction fast to change a bigger direction, since the movement speed of the start of the dodge roll is much faster than the end of it. Speaking of dodging, you can observe the direction of the boss attacks, so you can dodge or even walk in the corresponding direction to avoid the attacks. You can set your open portal and end delirium as hotkeys so you don't need to mouse over to click it. I don't know if it is MTX or not, but I found a small golden blade pointing at the rare mobs. This could be useful when there are some underground rare mobs. If you have enough strength, you can put a one-handed mace and shield, then get a leap slam when you are surrounded by mobs. Just get high attack speed on your mace, the damage doesn't matter. The following are tips for my grenade base build. Projectile speed affects how far your grenade can go, so slower projectile actually helps to overlap the grenade cause it reduces the bouncing distance. As the grenade will bounce for some distance, when doing boss fights, you should aim at your feet to let the grenades bounce under the boss to get maximum hits. Explosive shot can detonate the grenades no matter if they touch the ground or not. So if you have high attack speed, you can throw and detonate the grenades midair, just aim at the location of the grenades. Oil grenade can instant detonate if you directly hit it onto the mobs. If you have culling strike, you can shoot an oil grenade onto their face to avoid any reload or extra detonation time to instantly kill the mobs. That's all about my personal experience and tricks. For the gem and passive setup, I'm still testing various stuff, but there are some key concepts that I think are must get for my build. If you like explosive shot only or gas grenade only, please don't follow my setup cause I'm building around explosive grenade. My personal MVP of the grenades is flash grenade, cause the high stun build-up, large O, and low fuse time. You might think what's the point of lower fuse time if we can detonate it by explosive shot, but this action also includes the attack time, so you actually still have delay between casting and activation. In most cases, you can just throw flash grenade and dodge cancel to move around the map, which makes your mapping safer and faster. If you want an extremely safe playstyle, just throw oil grenade and flash grenade then keep walking. For explosive grenade, I'm using payload-scattershot as my core support. Before the league launch, I was thinking about utilizing the ignite damage from explosive grenade, but the ignition is not as good as I thought. So I added scattershot for more overlap damage. For gas grenade, I'm using corrosion-fast forward as my core support. For 4 liters, I added fire penetration and inspiration for 5 liters, cause the main damage is fully fire damage and the mana cost is too high at a high level. For flash grenade, I'm using overpower, ruthless as my core support. Discombobulate for faster total stun, ingenuity for faster CD to zoom through maps, or you can add brutality for damage. For oil grenade, encumbrance and strip way are a must, main for more slow effect or persistence for longer debuff. For explosive shot, I'm using mobility, concentrated effect, nimble reload as my detonator. I may add peace later for more precise detonation. For aura, I'm using attrition, clarity and vitality. If I have more spirit, I'll use cannibalism too, as the life recovery on kill is pretty good, or just swap it with vitality. These are my core setup. For the remaining gem slots, I'm using cluster grenade for some more damage and leap slam to escape. I'm thinking about how to implement hammer of the god into my setup to get a big damage. We'll update it again if I figure out any method. You can also use ballista and add font support, but they keep getting one shot by mobs, which is so annoying, so I dropped it. For the passive tree, I have tried pathing to the ranger area for movement speed and marauder for more armor. But currently, I'm pathing to resolute technique. I'm not getting any good enough gear for Cree base anyway, so resolute technique can help with my accuracy problem and I don't need to worry about accuracy penalty at range. I have also pathed to increase damage against low life area, cause I think killing the last phase of the boss or mobs faster is important. Generally, getting flat damage, cooldown recovery, and grenade utility should be the core idea of the tree. Other stuff should be pretty personal. For ascendancy, I path to judge, jury and executioner, and zealous inquisition, and will swap the explosion to ceremonial ablution when I can get the last point. If my crossbow hammer setup is successful, I'll get weapon master and swap decimating strike to sorcery ward pathing instead. Anyway, that's all about my thoughts on the game and build sharing. Hope they're useful for you. I'll keep playing and testing the grenade build on Witchhunter, and try playing this with Titan. If Titan doesn't work with a grenade build, I'll swap to a melee setup instead. Hope you guys are enjoying the game. Leave your comments to discuss more, and more importantly,
never fade away. What you did to me, I know. Said what you had.